get into it. Okay, super. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Friday's Developer Hangout. Today we have a lot of cool special guests, our accountants friends. Why don't we do some introductions right now? Beth, if you want to start, you are first on my list.
Hi, I'm Beth Davis. I'm a corporate controller, and then I also have a business where I consult with accountants, software developers, and I'm a sounding board for CEOs and business owners.
Cool, and where are you located?
Bellevue, Washington.
Oh, super. So a little early for you as well.
9 o'clock. It's not bad.
No problem. Deborah, do you want to go next?
Sure. This is Deborah. I am in Akron, Ohio. I am a senior director with BDO USA, and I work with a lot of small and medium-sized businesses. A lot.
Super. That I'm sure it keeps you busy. Esther, you want to go next?
Nope. Can she hear that?
Esther?
Sorry. Oh, were you asking me? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
I thought Hector.
You're up.
Okay. My name's Esther Friedberg Karp, and I live in Toronto, Canada. And I'm a pro advisor in Canada, the US, and the UK. And I'm certified in QuickBooks Desktop and Online. And I have clients all over the place in different countries.
Cool. And how about you, Hector?
Yeah, hi, I'm Hector Garcia. I'm a QuickBooks Pro Advisor, of course, and a CPA in Miami, and we focus mostly on training. And like Esther, I also have clients all over the world, mostly in South America from the international clients that I have. So it's interesting to have a bunch of non-English speakers try to figure out how to use QuickBooks.
Interesting.
And there's a lot of multi-currency sort of stuff too. So.
Interesting. Cool. And how about you, Joe?
Hi, I'm Joe Peach. I work with Tristan, or rather, he has the unfortunate task of having to sit next to me every day. I also work in the Intuit Developer group.
And I see that Matt, you've joined this great conversation.
Hi, Matt.
Good morning. How's everyone? I'm Matt Reiser. I'm with Tech in the Field. We are app developers. We have a caller ID screen pop app on apps.com, and we're getting ready to launch our other program, which is Asphalt. It's estimating and scheduling software for asphalt contractors.
Yeah. Cool.
And Matt, you're going to be joining us for the hackathon?
Yep.
Awesome. Very awesome.
Oh, we have another Matt joined. Stuff ready though.
Oh, I saw him pop up, and then I don't know what happened.
Yeah. Make sure I have some ambient noise now.
That sounded like a Wookiee.
Yeah, I have a neighboring dog in my backyard. Well, cool. Matt, how would you like to get some feedback on any hackathon ideas you have? You want to pitch anything you think you might want to work there, or just test your ideas out with this group of accountants?
I don't know that I had any specific questions or things to ask at this point.
No problem.
I mean, I guess for me, I'm just debating doing something completely unrelated, or just adding on to Asphalt. So I'm not even sure what I'm planning on doing at the hackathon this year.
Yeah, do you want to maybe tell a little bit more about Asphalt and where it is now?
Sure. So it allows contractors to put in production-based job formulas. So you can say we can pave this many square feet per hour, and it takes this many tons of asphalt per square foot. So an estimator can just go out, punch in the size of the property, and it will do the calculation automatically of how much labor and materials are required for the job, and then create the proposal from there.
Interesting. And do you have any sort of asphalt laying experience that made you want to?
Yeah, my family owns an asphalt maintenance business, so it was made for I made it for our company just out of need for ourselves. So yes, that's where it came from.
Interesting. Deborah, you have any asphalt contractors in your?
We don't,
Yeah.
but I like to hear it only because my husband works in heavy excavating, so that's always interesting.
Oh, so maybe instead of laying down asphalt, you just need the digging out dirt app instead.
Exactly. Well, we've got
Oh, Matt.
Matt popped up again. Hi, Matt. Nope, we can't hear him.
Quiet as a church mouse. Interesting. So why don't we just have a little discussion about, some of the things that you guys, the accountants, are seeing in the field, and where you'd like to see some innovation in the accounting space. Are there any big problems that you have with your clients that take a ton of time, or what do your clients find super scary? If you guys have any thoughts on that, I'd love to capture those ideas here.
I have one need. It's a big need. So I work with a lot of multi-currency as well, and job costing in multi-currency is very, very, very difficult. So an app that would fix that would be really great, especially if it pulled the correct currency exchange rates.
Oh, interesting. And what? How does that make your life more difficult?
So, for example, I am a controller for a global engineering firm, and we work in euros, Canadian dollars, and U.S. dollars mainly. So if I'm billing my customer in Canadian, but we have charges to apply to that job worldwide in multiple currencies, I have to do the conversions manually because QuickBooks won't allow you to put in different currencies for a customer who's already being labeled as being Canadian currency.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So payroll costing and everything is a pain in the butt.
Yeah. And then, this is just a personal question from my knowledge. What exchange rate do you use? The one for that moment when the charge was taken, or?
It depends. Sometimes we take it from the moment, but QuickBooks doesn't ever pull anything close to reality, to be honest. So I tend to use XE a lot, and a lot of times we're taking just the end of the month.
Sure. Interesting. Yeah, because I imagine that could make a pretty big difference in.
It's huge.
Things.
Yeah.
Are you talking about QuickBooks Desktop in this case?
Yep.
Okay. Can I chime in here?
Yes, please.
Because I do a lot of work with multiple currencies, and so I've got some pain points as well. I had a client come to me in California. He had roughly 22 entities that he needed to roll up into some kind of consolidation using Enterprise. And some of these consolidations, some of these entities had a different home currency. And Enterprise isn't smart enough to know that you're dealing with the home currency of the Canadian dollar or the yen or the euro versus the US dollar, just slaps them all together and adds them.
Right.
The other thing is that not all the entities are wholly owned. So they needed to be able to apply a percentage ownership. So it really was a dog's breakfast, and I had to look elsewhere for something to keep them in on the QuickBooks platform. Not that I do if QuickBooks won't do the job for them, then I'll tell them. But they just don't have the bandwidth to convert right now to anything else. So they really would like to stay in the QuickBooks environment if at all possible.
Right. Interesting. I see that Stacy. Welcome to the Hangout.
I made it.
I'm glad. You want to give a quick little introduction on yourself?
Oh, I'm Stacy Kildal. I'm a pro advisor. I don't know what to say.
Well, where are you located, and what kind of work do you do?
I'm in Michigan.
Great.
I'm right about there. I'm like an hour north of Detroit. So I own Kildal Services, and I do the QB show. And I'm a little out of sorts because I just got back from Atlanta.
Oh, well, I'm sure it's much colder in Michigan.
It's actually about this. It's close to the same. It's slightly warm here, so.
Great. We were just talking about pain points you might have that you want people to tackle on during QuickBooks Connect Hackathon. Do you have any anything that takes you a lot of time or your clients hate, or anything
Not that I don't already have workarounds for. I just want labor costing. That's my big thing.
Casting. Sure. No, cool. I think Jim, welcome to the table.
No, so what happens is.
Hey, thanks.
What? You want to give a quick little introduction of yourself and let us know what brought you to the Hangout today?
Sure. Jim Watson with Method CRM here in Toronto.
Hey!
Hey, Esther. Just saw it was about the hackathon and thought I'd jump on and see what people had to say.
And you'll be at the hackathon, right?
Yeah.
Yes, I'll be at the hackathon. Method will be there. Method's not entering in the hackathon themselves, but we have a lot of partners that are planning to do it, so we're going to be milling around helping partner and answering any questions people have for partners as they enter in.
Gotcha.
You guys didn't want to carry around a nice big check like last year around? For those of you guys who don't know, the Method team was one of our big winners last year, or the big winner last year.
Yeah, it was fun taking all the pictures coming back, just trying to think of random things that we could do with the check. There were a number of pictures that did not make the Twitter able to be sent out via Twitter, so maybe we'll have to send them out to others individually.
Yeah, that was a fun thing to watch. I hadn't even joined the program yet, and sorry, Tristan, go ahead.
No, it sounds like a really funny event.
Yeah, I think we're still trying to wait for, people kind of trickle in the next couple of minutes after we start. But what I wanted to ask, and I'm going to be selfish, so I'm going to just take over. I wanted to kind of go around with the accountants and the pro advisors and see kind of what the silos of apps that you currently use. Is it time tracking? Is it your favorites, your top 2 favorites, or just ones that you most recently used?
My 2 favorites are Finagraph and Spring Ahead.
Which ones?
Finagraph.
Oh yeah, and what kind of things do they do?
Finagraph is a BI dashboard, and I use it for troubleshooting, and I also use it for my monthly close. And Spring Ahead is time and expense in one login.
And when you say troubleshooting, what do you sort of mean by that?
So I just closed my accounting business, and I did a lot of cleanup work. Mm-hmm. So in order to kind of find quickly where the problem areas were, I would just upload the file to Finagraph, and through ratio analysis and trend analysis, it was really easy to find out where people were having problem areas.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So not just for financial strategic planning, right. It's also really helpful for finding training areas.
Yeah.
Areas.
So you're using it sort of as a a time shortcut to narrow down on stuff. What are you, Esther or Deborah? You have any
Me, I've been using HubDoc, also a Toronto company, and also been using a lot of the Bay State consulting stuff, Transaction Pro, Importer. Actually, for the first time I bought Transaction Pro Deleter. I have a client who's using QuickBooks Desktop to track foreign properties and mortgages. And he decided after we set it all up and we'd had it running years like that, oh, you know what, really, they're really 2 different corporate entities. And we should really be splitting them up. And I thought, well, you're a CPA, you should know better. Anyway, I was using basically I copied the combined books that we've been working on. I made several copies, and I used Transaction Pro Deleter to get rid of the currency transactions that did not belong in each copy. Saved me a ton of work.
Yeah.
I've done something similar to that too, Esther.
Yeah.
We're really, I'm in love with QVinci. I think it's an incredible reporting dashboard.
What does that do?
Reporting. We have a lot of franchises, so we can get a consistent financial statement no matter where it's pulling from. It's absolutely huge. So big, huge fan of QVenchi. For our outsourcing group, we're obviously using a ton of Bill.com and implemented some live plan for some of our new startup companies. But my newest venture is in Expensify. So those are all of our top ones.
Interesting. And then do you feel like all these apps work together pretty well, or?
Oh yeah. Yep. It depends on where we, set the hub and where it's going to be, where's going to be the starting point. So it depends on each given situation and each given process. One of our biggest pain points is our POS clients with, I like Shopify, it just doesn't track inventory. So been struggling, tried Stitch out, not a big fan right now. I'm trying to win them over.
That's interesting to hear. What about you, Hector? Do you have any favorite apps? Oh, Hector, I don't think we can hear you.
How about now?
There we go.
Okay. I told an amazing story, and I'm not going to repeat it now. Anyway, HubDoc is one of those apps that took me by surprise. Apps that can do receipt management and stuff like that, that's not innovative. But what HubDoc did, which is sort of create this backend aggregation of data and from different places, PayPal, Amazon, and I think the list is just going to get bigger. I think that's probably been one of the most disruptive of all the apps this year. It's really breakthrough, and I think they've only scratched the surface. I mean, where I visualize this whole receipt management thing moving forward is when merchants have the ability to digitally send those receipts to the accounting system instead of having somebody print the receipt and take a picture of it. That to me is such a, that's like so 2003, and people are still excited about it. Like Receipt Bank, it's a great tool, but, this is like a really old technology, reorganized, so we really want to be breakthrough is you figure out a way to digitally send these receipts straight to the accounting system instead of having us to print it or upload it and all that stuff.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And it, the only thing I've seen similar to that is, I know, larger corporations use Concur. You can connect your Uber account to your Concur, and all your Uber receipts will just instantly be integrated there.
Yeah, but that's just Uber, that's just like 1% of your expenses,
Well,
the other
drive.
piece. I'm in Miami, so we have to drive here. There's no Uber here. Actually, it's a huge Uber battle in one of the counties. So one of the counties is prohibited, the other one is not. So when you cross counties, there's this whole craziness happening down here. The other app, and I want to talk about the specific feature in the app, is on Method. Method has a really cool integration in email. Whereas a client sends me an email, and inside that email, I can see my entire communication and invoicing and payment history inside that email, and that does provide a lot of context. So before we reply, it's good to know if they owe me money or not. So right now, for me to do that, I have to open up QuickBooks and see if they owe me money and that sort of thing, because sometimes the length of the answer depends on how current they are, right? So, so if they haven't really paid, the answer is like, maybe we got to set up an appointment. If there's a really good client and they paid, maybe I'll answer the entire question, right? So I found that, but I like to see the reverse. I like to see inside QuickBooks Online, I like to see my email communication be displayed in my customer profile. So if QBO could somehow fetch the email addresses of everybody in my organization.
But Hector, Intuit's not a CRM company; they're an accounting company.
I understand, but not every client is gonna. So typical one-man shops, which is the great majority of this nation's entrepreneurs, right, do not have the bandwidth to to learn an accounting system and a CRM system, right? Method CRM is a good fit for a lot of clients, but almost all the CRM have a learning curve.
Amazing that it's easy. If they need a
The what?
CRM that's simple, Legrand CRM, their online one, it's badass. It's awesome.
That's Legrand. Yeah, I'm in bed with Method because I spend so much time learning it and customizing it, and that's sort of my go-to recommend. But that's also my perspective, right? Maybe I have a limited perspective because of the apps that I'm exposed to. But would it be really bad if I'm looking at a customer profile in QBO and I see the last 7 emails of communication with the client? I mean, that could also provide context, right? Or we can, I don't know. It's just a thought. This is a soundboard, right? This is
that's very interesting. Yeah, it's exactly what we want to hear.
So Tristan, Intuit doesn't have a way, at least currently that I'm aware of, that would allow a third-party developer to put something within QuickBooks or have it display within QuickBooks. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. And I've actually been thinking about doing some sort of interesting proof of concept with like a Chrome section or something where you sort of jack into the browser instead. But yeah, in general, it would be pretty tricky to get something inside of the QBO experience.
That extension idea is interesting. Though.
Yeah, because if you're a big Gmail user, there's several extensions that, or several different CRMs or things like that, where you can get a Chrome extension for it, and then it'll add extra buttons or things like that to your Gmail experience. And so I think something very similar could be done, especially with QBO. You just add another little tab there on the left or something like that. So maybe at the hackathon you'll be making the Sasphalt Chrome extension.
Maybe.
And Hector, you touched on this a little bit, but we sort of assume and what we heard is that really the accountant's recommendations for applications is a pretty big deal for your clients. And do you feel that your customers really have really take your advice when you tell them what apps to use and things like that?
I think it depends on the confidence level that you put in there. I've had, I know about apps that I've never used before. Like I've never used Deer Inventory, and I used Exact Online 3 years ago. I've used SOS. So when I come to a client and say, if you're using QBO and you want to use inventory, I have used SOS. SOS is really good. And there's also these two. So I think the confidence that you place on your recommendation makes a difference too. Some accountants, and some of you guys can collaborate, some of us want that separate relationship, right? That independent relationship. So sometimes we make something that I call a distant recommendation, where you just point at it and say, look in that direction, and that's it, right? And in some cases you say, look, let me grab you by the hand and let's go through the process. The client's budget, free time, ability to think and learn. We apply all these things in it. I have many little clients that would be great using Method, for example, or SOS, but I just know they're not going to spend the time. They don't spend the time now to learn how to receive a payment. How are they going to spend time to use a whole other complicated application?
Right.
So I think we make determinations sometimes in a very subjective matter. It's not just how we feel about the software; it's how we try to fit it with the situation. But yeah, I think a lot of our clients take our recommendations really, really seriously. I mean, for the people here in this group, I'm sure that we are all in that client relationship business. We're not just transactional. So I would say absolutely yes.
I want no relationships with my clients. Just kidding.
Platonic relationship, right?
What about the experience some of the other guys have had about recommending apps for your clients?
So I feel like I'm in a completely different situation because I'm in Redmond, Washington, right? Mm-hmm. So Microsoft is here, and we kind of have to go in and pull apps away from clients because people here are so technology excited that they'll just go shopping and buy a bunch of stuff. So they're paying for a bunch of stuff, but not necessarily using a bunch of stuff like Hector said, because they don't take the time. So in our area, I think it's more guiding them towards what fits their purposes better and will make them more efficient, and trying to bring them down from being so excited about everything that can support their business.
Interesting. And yeah, Deborah, you gonna say something?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, with Hector, there's a lot of apps out there. You try a couple. I don't think anybody's going to ever know every single one of them. I think it's important to just look at your client base and cherry pick the ones that you feel are going to best benefit the majority, and then go with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll piggyback on that. It is possible for us, everybody here, to take on the humongous, gargantuous task of making sure that we know 90% of the apps out there. The problem is we're gonna have to level between billable time and learning and continuous learning time. So if we take the incredible task of being very secure about 80% of the apps in the App Center, our billable time goes down to maybe 2 or 3 hours a week. So we would have to bill like $1,000 an hour to make up for all that. So fortunately, there's sort of a balance between, do I want to be a really, really good expert and get paid for it when we bill, or do I want to be a good enough expert to be dangerous enough to mention it and start the conversation, and then have more billable time. But then the big issue is some clients have the expectation that you should have all the answers up front, and your recommendation should be completely close-ended. You recommended it and it's going to work and it's guaranteed, and it doesn't work like that. So I tend to work with clients that are willing to pay for the time that it takes for us to research, test it, and realize it didn't work and move on to the next one. And if you don't take a client like that, that's when we get hit, right? We get burnt, and that's when we get discouraged from recommending apps. So I think that's sort of that balance that we have to maintain when recommending apps.
And further to what Hector said, there's only so many apps that you can keep in your head, and frankly, if I were to spend time, unbillable time, learning all kinds of apps for which I don't have, let's say, an immediate need or an immediate client, that kind of doesn't stay in my brain. There's so much is coming out.
Right.
So, when the need arises, that's fine. But, you have to balance between spending all this professional development time and being ready for your clients. So sometimes you have to wait till they express a need.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And you can make money on the consulting side, because you can figure out if the provider of that app is willing to work with you and teach you on the backside, rather than you fumbling through it yourself sometimes.
Exactly.
And yeah, so this is really interesting. What, as an app developer, what could someone do to I guess get in your good graces to have you recommend their app? How do they build a relationship with you, or what can they do to get your recommendation?
Customer support.
Customer support.
From the accounting side. I'll give you a great example. I emailed Stitch and they wouldn't talk to me without the client adding on a $50 a month fee. Now, I'm the accountant recommending it. Are you kidding me?
Interesting.
There was an app that one of my clients was using that I'm not going to name, that I couldn't figure out, and it was dumping data into QuickBooks, and it was complete and utter garbage. And I went to their site, and there was no educational materials at all on it, so I couldn't figure out how to use it. I contacted the owner, and he told me in a month they would have a webinar. That is not how to help us. We need access to the education as easy and as fast as possible. Give me 2 clicks on your website.
Interesting. Yeah, so customer service, education. What about in terms of discovery? How do you find your favorite app?
Well, when you have a positive experience, they become more favorite.
My peers.
Yeah. And the Friday morning hangouts. You're finding new apps right now.
A lot of Google searches.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, sometimes they come and seek you out. Like, my big thing, I'm like a multi-currency freak.
Mm-hmm.
So, like TransferMate sought me out a couple of years ago. They're trying to pick my brain for free kind of thing. But, now I'm working with them. And actually, they're very good.
T-Sheets has an interesting model because, and I know some people from T-Sheets are going to hear me, and then I'm going to get the backlash on the email, on an email or something on the way out. But T-Sheets, when it first came out, to me, it was kind of a crummy software. From user interface, it did what it did, but it just wasn't friendly. It wasn't slick. It wasn't cool. But they did such a great job, not just the whining and dining at the conferences, but they did such a great job at instilling a high level of confidence that says, look, if you recommend it and then proceed to take a cruise and drop your cell phone back in your office and come back 2 weeks later, when you come back, that software, that client will be up and running in the app. And that level of confidence on the recommending is huge, because sometimes we want to be involved, sometimes we don't want to be involved. Sometimes our intention is to be involved, and we realize that later on we just rather the vendor deal with the client directly. And we love that flexibility of knowing that it doesn't matter what happens to me or to the client or our relationship, that onboarding process is going to be taken care of 100%. Now, at the same time, it's tough, right? Because T-Sheets charges, $10, $15 a month per user or whatever. It's very labor intensive to have a client, especially some of the dummies, call 2-3 times customer service because they can't figure something out, and they respond that quick and that fast. So as a business model, it's probably difficult. I work with another app developer, which I won't mention, that has an amazing product. It's literally the product that I use the most, and it saves me the most time. I'm not going to mention it because this thing is being recorded. If you want to email privately, I'll answer that. However, their support is horrendous. It's not even horrendous. It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. It's like imagine if only one maker in the world made a hammer, right? It's made by one person, the hammer. But you can't really call anybody for technical support because there's nobody that really owns the hammer technology. So if you don't know how to use it, it won't work. But if you learn how to use it, it's amazing. So it's a very difficult situation because I had to spend a lot of hours of my own time to learn this application, right. and it's paying off. But then when I recommend it to a client, I have to know that the recommendation comes with hand-holding, so it's hard to separate the recommendation from my time. And that to me is a bad example of how to have a sustainable, great application.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It sounds like support and onboarding is really essential for you guys, but I think it's probably an area that many developers sort of skimp on in terms of prioritizing product features instead of onboarding or education materials. So that's a great insight there. Super.
Gotta love the awkward silence.
No problem.
Hey, can I get in here?
Yeah.
I got a question. So how many of the accountants and our guests here have gone to QuickBooks Connect last year? Did all of you go?
Yeah.
Yep.
Everybody.
Yes. Sounds like across the board. Did you guys meet with devs? And just out of curiosity, or did you guys go to the hackathon or anything?
That was the best part of Connect.
Woo! Yay!
Good to hear.
I was sad that it was hidden and you had to really go out and find it, and I wish it had been more in the forefront so people would have stumbled into it because it was amazing.
Agreed.
Yeah.
That's okay. I will come find you, and I will come lead you personally to the hackathon this year.
Me too.
Awesome. And then for Matt, and Jim, did you guys meet with accountants there? I'm sure you did. And then can you talk a little bit about that experience of talking to some of the folks who would be ultimately using your app? Bueller.
Go ahead, Matt. Matt, go ahead.
I don't know that
it's always really great to ask developers to like.
I was letting Matt go first.
It's okay.
Yeah, I was trying to be polite.
It's not in real life. You can talk. We don't really exist.
I mean, I don't know that I talked to accountants specifically about the app that I was building, just because it's hard to find or just go around, hey, do you work with asphalt companies? That type of thing. It was because of the nicheness of it.
Well, sign on your chest.
There are people who work with asphalt.
Well, there are, but they don't have signs on their chest, so I don't know who to ask.
You know, that's kind of a good pickup line, you know.
Hey, baby.
You're gonna get a reaction at least, right?
Yeah.
You're gonna.
That would be really funny to run a speed dating thing between accountants and devs, which is something that I've been trying to start in San Francisco. There's a meetup group called the Future of Accounting, and I've been trying to get us to do a speed dating between developers and accountants, and so you guys can like go and do that. So those are going to be really great sound bites. Sorry, Matt. Go ahead.
Oh, that was the end of my response.
All right.
Well, that opens up the floor for Jim then.
So yes, was at QuickBooks Connect last year. Definitely spoke with accountants, but I had just joined Method literally weeks before QuickBooks Connect, so I was pretty much just thrown right into it, right at the beginning. I was brought on board, was more about managing the partnership with Intuit and everything we're doing there, and that has since changed to broaden that to all partnerships with accountants. So last year it was really just about, okay, what is this industry all about? Who are the people, and just start and meet everybody, right? So got to meet some of you all, got to hang out with people even more at other conferences. So yeah, so definitely got around to meet people, but it was definitely early days for me, drinking from a fire hose.
Of course. Yeah, so this year we're really hoping to sort of maximize the intermingling between accountants and developers. So, because you guys have a lot of interesting feedback for each other, and it should be a great way for developers to understand more about where you're coming from in terms of the actual user experience for your applications. Do any of you guys happen to work with nonprofits?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. We're hoping to really focus on helping some nonprofit pain points this year's hackathon. Do you happen to have anything that comes to mind when you think about problems that nonprofits face compared to other companies?
Oh, absolutely. I actually did I do a class, a seminar for our nonprofits every year. It's a 4-hour class, and I've only been able to accomplish some of what we train them on grant reconciliation within the desktop. And so it's a huge pain point in QBO. And I know Stacy and Woody have shared some really great workarounds, but some of my nonprofits just aren't capable of understanding those things. So the biggest thing is utilizing the job costing module to do grant reconciliation. It's actually using items. And it's phenomenal, because these reconciliation reports, when you're receiving the money and you're spending the money and you're using that same item and you're writing the grants and then you're submitting the reports in that format, you know, revenue versus cost, it's so transparent that these foundations are so much happier to know that they could come knocking on the door at a nonprofit and say, hey, by the way, just stopping by to see how everything's going. Why don't you give me one of your reports? And it's instantaneous. We've accomplished a great deal inside the desktop, and it would be absolutely phenomenal to have that in QBO, because that is one industry I don't recommend for QBO for that very reason.
Interesting. Yeah, that sounds like a great opportunity for developers to tackle. And when you say grant reconciliation, could you just describe that a little bit more to me?
Sure, absolutely. I'll give you a great example. Dave Thomas Foundation. Dave Thomas was adopted, and he's a big advocate of foster care. So, especially in Ohio here, we have adoption agencies, foster care, and they'll write to the foundation and they'll say, okay, we're going to give you $70,000 for you taking care of one foster child that's over the age of 13.
Sure.
So that $70,000 though has to be reconciled every quarter, and you have to provide us documentation on how you're spending that money that we're giving you.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't spend it all on that child, you have to give it back to us, right? And 40 grand is allowed for a salary for a social worker,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have benefits with it, and you would have you know, clothing allowance, you would have education allowance, and you would have entertainment, meals, miles, travel. That'll give you a baseline.
Yeah.
So when we send the progress invoicing, because it's sent quarterly to the foundation, you have all those items listed separately. And then as you spend the money, the child, the foster child is actually, you know, listed underneath that grant, so you can fully get that. And then on top of it, you can class it because we have several different of those grants for this particular client.
Right.
And so we class it by the grant, but then we use the job part of it, you know, Dave Thomas, as for the grant reconciliation. So we can slice and dice the information to get it to come out just like you would see a job costing report, and it's absolutely phenomenal.
Interesting. Yeah, that definitely sounds like there's some opportunity for some improvement there instead of forcing job costing to take over everything. But very good.
Again, you hear that all the time, job costing, job costing. So if you think about it, and it's sad to think about kids and adoption and job costing, but it's the same thing. It's manufacturing, you know, of tracking the ins and the outs.
Sure. Stacy, were you about to jump in? You have
Well, I was going to say the problem with QBO is you can do job costing, you just can't do the labor costing. Is that what you were talking about? Is that what you were, Deb, is that what you meant?
Yep, yeah, it's the salary of the employee.
Right, because you can do job costing with just expenses, but you just can't do the labor costing, and I think that's where sometimes people get hung up on, and they think that QBO can't do any job costing whatsoever, when really it's just the labor that's a pain in the ass that you have to journalize. Yeah.
But the report itself isn't as transparent as, you know, going in and getting a job profitability detail like you would see in desktop.
Right. Yeah. Well,
That's the workarounds are great, but it would be so much better if it was more transparent, because you and I both know that in a nonprofit world, the bookkeepers and the people managing the books don't have that same level of expertise that somebody like you would. So.
Yeah, and then and it's the turnover too, because it's usually a lot of times it's a volunteer and they're only doing it for 6 months, or it's an appointed position and it changes over every year. So yeah, I know, I get it.
Yep. So if we had literally a report that you push a button, if we set it up properly for them to start with, it would be enormous on my recommendation for nonprofits.
Interesting. That's great to hear. Hopefully you'll have something like that in a couple months after the hackathon.
Hey Deborah, can I ask you a question since you work with a lot of nonprofits?
Yep.
This is an issue that I have, or we have, an expense transaction that needs to hit 10 customers, so it needs to hit 12 classes, and we have to divide them equally across a bunch of classes and stuff like that. Did you find that with nonprofits that to be a challenge too, where you have, let's say, one expense that you have to hit across 6 classes, and you have to manually sit there and do the splits or memorize the transaction and repeat it? Do you find that to be a nonprofit challenge too?
Yeah, and we do have a workaround. I have done a workaround for that. I've used TPI. I have a young guy. We have a payroll company that we recommend for all of our clients. They're located here in Ohio, and they hired a young guy, and he actually built me a converter that actually can take, you know, like I can put in a formula, or the formula is there, and I can just put in the expenses, and it breaks it out, and so I can push those transactions right into QBO or desktop with that converter.
Right, but can you get a client to use it?
Well, this particular client's a little more sophisticated. She can.
Right.
You might also want to try, at least in desktop, you might want to try group items because you have those other charge items that can be percentages. And I wrote something for advanced desktop certificates with automatic allocation, if you're interested, Hector.
I actually have a YouTube video on that too.
Okay. Recreating the wheel. Yeah.
I'll post, but it's semi-automated. Okay, so in gun terms, it's semi-automated, not automated. Not automated.
You got it there. Okay.
Oh, and yeah, I'm really interested to hear any other issues with nonprofits. I think the one we just discussed is really interesting, but any other pain points that they have, or things that could be easier for you or their lives, I think we would love to hear. But if that's the only problem nonprofits have, then understandable as well.
There's never enough money or enough time or enough anything, so making it easier and dumbing it down as much as possible.
Well, there's one other issue with not-for-profits, because I deal with a lot of not-for-profits that are like religious organizations, some synagogues and such, and they need to keep track of rules, but they need to issue nation receipts or tax for personal taxes that are based only on the monies they received. Right. So, you have people that are, members of a synagogue, so they pay their membership dues, but, let's say the membership dues are, I'll make $1,200 for the year, so they plan to pay it monthly. That's how they decide to do it. But by the time, maybe the membership year starts in September when the Jewish high holidays start, so by the time December rolls around, they've only paid $400 of that year. So, that's an issue as well.
Oh, interesting. I thought it could be a issue for any sort of membership-based business.
Yeah, I do a workaround with like sales orders and stuff, but whatever.
Interesting. Yeah, I know. Recently, because I work directly with a lot of the third-party partners, and recently a synagogue backend software is trying to get on apps.com right now.
Really?
Yeah, there are.
Which one?
I think they're called Shul Cloud.
Shul is the Yiddish word for synagogue. Shul Cloud.
So yeah, developers are trying to solve your problems.
Okay, I'll look into it. Thank you.
Cool. Judge, have any more questions for this group? Maybe take a little water. Great. Yeah. I mean, I am just trying to get this out there for our developers to see. So, any problems that you guys face and you want to air out, I would love to hear about.
I want to go back to something that Hector said. So,
yeah.
A lot of us go to a lot of these conferences, and honestly, the exhibit area is annoying. And because we're seeing a lot of vendors, and we're seeing a lot of them repeatedly, right? Don't chase me with your knickknacks. Don't tell me you're going to give me money. Concur and T-Sheets have the greatest customer service on the planet. I could literally hand a client to them. They will do all of the onboarding. They will do all the training, and they will make me look good. So the value in that is huge. So if vendors could start telling me how they're going to support me and support my clients, I'd be a lot more apt to talk to them when it comes to the exhibit area. I don't get excited about the giveaways at all. I have enough of these. I don't need any more. So I just really want to see people have a stronger educational side. And if you have an accountant's whatever division, make sure you're actually giving us something. You have to be giving us the support. You have to be giving us the extra education that you're not giving the business owners. You have to make your accountant's division be meaningful, not just so we can have a stupid badge.
Right.
Exactly, and I think that that's worth more than affiliate commission, revenue sharing. To me, that's a lot more valuable than that, than getting paid. Getting paid is incidental, right?
Yeah.
We don't. I mean, we want that. We all want money, right? I mean, that's not an issue. But if I could trade in, the $20 you're gonna pay me for a commission or whatever for great onboarding experience, I mean, forget it. You can. I'll pay you, right? You don't have to pay me, But
I won't pay them.
That's a challenge.
Great, I'm not going to pay them either.
Well, I mean, so there
I'm
are
just
some.
messing with you.
There are some projects, right? Like if I have, let's say, a $15,000 project, and one of the little components of it is, integrating data, from the shopping cart into QuickBooks, for example, and it's something that I just don't have the time allotted to in my staff to do, and I want, like WebGility or whatever, or T-Hub to actually do the onboarding for the client. I would. That's actually worth to me more than the back-end payment that they'll give me, because I can actually complete the project in time. So it's not always. I mean, I want to do everything for the client. Sometimes they don't want to pay it, or they expect the vendor to do it. And sometimes I just don't have the time. I have 2-3 weeks to get it done, and I have to integrate 6 different things. I would love to have 1 or 2 vendors that would take on the onboarding for me.
Mm-hmm.
I'd also like to see more transparency. I'm really sick of vendors telling me that their product does something or it's going to do something next week.
Oh, yeah.
Tell me it's in process. I don't care if it's not ready yet, but don't lie to me, because then I'm going to somebody else and I'm spreading that lie, and then we look bad.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
A lie spreader. You don't want to be a lie spreader.
No.
Right. Interesting. Jim or Matt, do you have any last minute questions for our group of accountants here?
I don't appreciate it.
Yeah. Well,
Don't
sorry,
either at the
there
moment.
won't be any new Sasfalt coffee mugs. We'll add a new Sasfalt customer support, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And thank you to all of them for coming today and sharing their insights.
Yeah, of course. Thank all of you. And then, we're doing a pretty similar event to this next week. So another opportunity for accountants to air out their pain points, and developers to get some feedback on their ideas. So thank you again for all showing up today, and then hopefully we'll have a great QuickBooks Connect in November.
Can I just say what a much better host Tristan was than Larry has ever been?
Wow.
Can I correct you on that?
We stopped the recording, right?
Slow clap, dude. Slow clap.
Okay.
Well, they're just